Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and I am so excited to finally have this here to check out with you guys because it is the very first super articulated dinosaur figure to come from Lulu's Customs and Classics, as this is his Scorpios Rex. Now, if you have been following along with the Lulu's Customs and Classics line, he has released quite a few Scorpios Rex so far already. It's very clear to me, and I'm sure many others, that he's a fan of this hybrid. I myself am also a massive fan of the Scorpios Rex. I think it's quite possibly the coolest hybrid that the Jurassic World franchise has produced overall. It's just such a cool mashup of so many different dinosaurs, and again, it's just such a unique looking creature that they've created that I've always been really quite drawn to it. There has been only one, as far as I'm aware of, other version, well, technically two versions, but there was one other person that made a super articulated Scorpios. That would have been Jurassic Justin. His is long gone. It's been retired for quite some time now, and we now have this brand new version out from Lulu's Customs and Classics, and it is absolutely fantastic for so many reasons. One, of course, because it is a super articulated Scorpios Rex. That is absolutely awesome in its own right, but also because it is, again, the very first super articulated dinosaur figure from Lulu. And that makes me really excited because he's released some super cool figures up until this point, and I would be very excited to see them all receive the same treatment with the articulation. But as you can see, it also comes with a really neat base, which has kind of like a paddock sign knocked over and beaten around. You know, it looks very kind of dirty and weathered, and again, everything just looks super cool together. So without further ado, let's jump to a closer look and check it out from there. So starting up here at the head sculpt of our Scorpios Rex, you can see he absolutely nailed that classic Scorpios Rex look. Again, at this point, I would say it's classic. And again, I would think at this point he should have this one down. He's created quite a few Scorpios so far, and I would say that the head sculpt looks, again, perfect in my opinion. Also, see he's got some nice looking skin texture and nice looking paintwork, quite a few different variations of colors. You can see darker variations of grays with browns put kind of dry brushed over the top. You've also got like some reddish browns, you have some tans. So he's definitely applied a good bit of paintwork to the figure. You can see the eyes painted with a red, given a yellow and a black slit-like pupil as well. We obviously have the quills and everything up here on the top of the head, which are a mixture of grays and browns. We do have an articulated jaw, which you can see both the lower and upper jaws articulated right there, which allows you to have a really cool open mouth look for the Scorpios Rex. You can see the teeth are all sculpted individually, all painted quite nicely with a yellowish tone. Same deal for the lower jaw. The teeth also have a very nice, genuine, sharp look to them. We've got a purplish tone for the inside of the mouth. You can see the tongue sculpted out in there. You've got the throat and everything as you move through. Again, everything looks quite nice on the inside of the mouth. And again, you can see how the upper jaw and lower jaw are articulating to open and close that mouth. As you move down through the course of the neck, you can see the skin texture continues to look nice. We've got variations of grays and browns moving down. You also have that lighter tone moving down along the underside of the throat. You do again have another area of articulation down here. You can move the neck down. You can also move the neck up. And you can swivel the neck side to side. So you've got some nice articulation, nice maneuverability in that area. As you move here into the back, you can see that kind of armored sort of a look pick up here running along the back of the Scorpios. You can also see the skin texture continues to look quite nice. We've got more of those browns highlighting the scale detail and everything moving through. As you move down into the arm, you've got the muscle definition sculpted out. You can see some more quills coming off of the back of the arm, and then you lead down into the hands. The fingers look very creepy like they do in the show, of course, and you can see the nails are definitely given a nice genuine sharp look. They're also painted with a nice glossy black. You do also have the ability to articulate the arms. You can go forward, you can go back, you can also come out away from the body. As you move down, you also have elbow articulation forward and back, and you can swivel those joints. And then you move down, you also have wrist articulation forward and back, and you can also swivel those joints. So you have very nice articulation the entire way down through the arm. You also have midsection articulation, which can go side to side a little bit, and then can also go up and down, which you can see right there. Again, even more articulation. As you move down into the leg, you do have hip articulation forward and back. As I bump into the camera, you can also move out away from the body there. You can, again, move the articulation of the knee forward and back and also swivel. You've got another spot right here, which can go forward and back and also swivel if I can keep a hold of the knee joint. There you go, you can kind of see it swiveling. And then as you move down again toward the foot, you can also, again, go forward and back with that area as well, and a swivel again. So you've got quite a bit of articulation through the course of the leg, and as you move down, you can see the muscle definition of the calf, of the thigh leading down. You've got the scoots running down the front of the foot, down into the toes. The nails, again, have a nice, genuine, sharp look to them, and they are, again, given a nice glossy black for the nails. And then as we lead back up here into the tail, as you lead out, you can see you've got quite a few articulated joints leading the entire way out through the course of the tail. And then you do, of course, end the tail off with that very impressive display of quills on the tail. And again, we have the mixtures of grays and browns leading out. And as you can see, you have very, very smooth articulation in the tail. And of course, the tail does pose very nicely, pretty much whatever way you put it. Obviously, if you're going to hold it to the side, it is going to fall, but I would think you would want your dinosaur to be standing upright, and you can, again, pose the tail pretty much whatever way you would like from side to side as far as that area goes. And then moving along the underside of the Scorpios, you again have the mixture of that light tan and some reddish browns, as well as some of the grays creeping through down there. And then if we turn it around, you can get a nice look at what everything looks like from the opposing side. Again, looking really beautiful, honestly, from both sides. He also has applied a really nice kind of, not really so much of a gloss coat, but a nice finish where it does have a little bit of a shine to it, which does also help the figure to stand out and definitely look really quite cool. Then as far as the base goes, if you take a look from this side, you can see the base is a very nice earthy area. You've got some stones and stuff here and there. You have all kinds of cracks and crevices when it comes to the earthy area that we have through the course of the base. You've also got, again, all sorts of variation of color that he's applied really nicely, as well as what appears to be like a dark wash, or maybe he started out with a dark tone and painted over it. But you can see again that the cracks and crevices in the dirt and earth are really nicely highlighted. He has also applied variation of color to the rocks and everything. And if you come down here to the side, again, that as well looks really quite nice. Overall, the presentation of this is really beautifully done. And as you move over here, you can see the paddock sign for the Scorpios Rex. You can even see again the foot right there. And then as you lead through, you can also see again that there's like cracks and crevices and weathering and everything applied to the paddock sign as well. The sign is actually removable, so if you don't want to keep it on, you don't have to. There's a little peg to slide it in right there so that it stays on. You can display it without it, or you can display it with it. I really quite like it with it. You can also choose to glue it on or just push it in. On top of that, there is a peg that you put into this hole right here, and what basically you need to do with that is push it onto the underside of the Scorpios. There are two holes here, one hole in the back and then one hole in the front, which kind of alters the way that the Scorpios Rex stands, so you can kind of have it leaning back more or crouching forward more, again, depending on where you put the pegs. But again, it's definitely a really cool figure. Obviously, it's his very first articulated figure, and considering it's his first one ever, I would say he has done a very good job on it. Also, something that I'm sure people are wondering is whether or not the figure can stand on its own. As you can see, you can get it into some positions where it can stand entirely on its own. I've been able to get it in quite a few different positions where it has stood, but I personally recommend keeping it on the base. It's going to help stabilize it and make sure that it doesn't fall or anything like that. Definitely my personal opinion would be to keep it on the base. Also, some of the pieces of the figure kind of pop out fairly easily. Now I had to give it a little tug, but you can see they can pop out. So again, just something to be aware of, and I'm pretty sure he is working on a way to stop that from happening as well. But again, it's just basically like an early prototype of his articulated version that we are checking out here, and he is always working on ways to improve his figures even more so than he already has. So as I said, for a first, attempt at an articulated figure, this thing is absolutely fantastic. And as you can see, I did knock the paddock sign out because I whacked it with the tail of the Scorpios a minute ago. But again, once you get the Scorpios back onto the peg and standing on the base, it's definitely a bit more stable and looks super cool. As far as the size goes, lengthwise, you were looking at about 13 3/4 inches or around 35 centimeters. And as far as a height goes, now obviously it's standing on the base, so it's a little bit taller than it would be if it was standing on the review station, but you are looking at approaching 7 1/4 inches or almost at 18.5 centimeters. But obviously, you know, if you position it up higher, you could alter the height of the Scorpios as a whole. But for a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect Day human being next to our Lulu's Customs and Classics Articulated Scorpios Rex. And you can see very clearly next to these figures that it does have quite the impressive size to it. Definitely a very sizable Scorpios. For another comparison, we've got a Mattel Velociraptor and Dilophosaurus next to the Scorpios Rex, again showing you that they are obviously a bit smaller. Then we have one of his previously released Scorpios Rex, which you can see as far as a size goes, the articulated version is significantly larger than his older versions. And then for anyone that might have the Jurassic Justin Scorpios, this is the sub-adult version next to the Lulu's Customs and Classics version, which you can see, you know, the Jurassic Justin version is just a little bit smaller when it comes to the sub-adult. So the Lulu's Customs and Classics version is somewhere in between the sub-adult from Jurassic Justin and the adult. And then for one final comparison, we have a Mattel Tyrannosaurus Rex. It's one of the Extreme Damage T-Rex figures. I did want to get some of the Mattel Scorpios to bring in, but unfortunately, I'm currently in the process of rearranging everything here in my room, completely revamping things. I have tons of stuff all over the place, like in storage and different areas. So for me to actually search those out right now would be an absolute nightmare until I can get this all straightened out. So we'll just have to bring in a Mattel T-Rex as a replacement comparison. So this Lulu's Customs and Classics Super Articulated Scorpios Rex is so unbelievably cool, and I am so excited for Lulu to now be incorporating articulation on his figures. As I said a few times now, this is his very first attempt, so I'm very impressed with how good the figure is, especially as far as the articulation and the maneuverability goes. Like, there are, you know, a few minor things that I think he'll work on and fix as time goes on, like some of the joints are kind of like, they pop out a little easier than you might expect them to, and that's something that I'm sure he's going to continue to work on and will probably have fixed in no time, I'm sure. I know how persistent he is when it comes to making sure he gets things done. And when he gets focused, trust me, he gets things done. But again, I think as far as the entire figure goes, the articulation is extremely impressive. There's a lot of it. He has made sure to articulate the figure in pretty much every area, and has done something that very few have done before, and that's give us a super articulated version of a Scorpios Rex, because not too many people have tried, with only him and Jurassic Justin being the two that I know of. But again, his sculpt is also nicely done, as it has been throughout the course of every one of his Scorpios Rex releases. I have completely enjoyed every single one of them, again, being a big fan of the Scorpios. I think every single time he releases one, it somehow gets cooler, and obviously he has upped his game with this one now, again, giving us a super articulated version. On top of that, the inclusion of the base is extremely cool. I love the fact that he has a base here with the figure, because on top of it helping with stability, it's also just nice to have a little scene that you can portray. And again, once you articulate your Scorpios into whatever pose you would like, the base is pretty much just the icing on the cake then at that point when it comes to your display. And the fine detail and paintwork of both the base and the Scorpios is also really nicely done. And I also like the fact that he's kind of painted this one a little differently than his other Scorpios. He normally has the Scorpios with like a black or a very, very dark gray, whereas this one is still a dark gray, but a little bit of a lighter shade compared to his normal Scorpios. So on top of it having tons of articulation, it also has a slightly different color scheme to it. But overall, again, I'm so excited about this, so excited to see him creating articulated figures, and even more excited to see him continue to create super articulated figures moving into the future. If you are interested in one of these, you can of course respond and, you know, let him know in the comment section that you are interested, but also of course follow him on Instagram, and of course bookmark his eBay store so that you can follow him on there as well, and then once he lists some for sale, you can grab them from there right away. So do all of that, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.